definitely think that no one is complacent about the impact of the coronavirus on the energy markets. And that is leading to discussions about really what should OPEC do. I think Saudi Arabia really remains committed to mitigating uncertainty in the market. They had apparently pushed for an early OPEC meeting to look at this issue to potentially do a deeper cut. Now we're going to have the meeting on schedule on March 5th. There is a proposal to cut 600,000 barrels of additional output, and that's going to be debated. So that's what OPEC looks like it's doing right now. The interesting question is, though, will concerns about supply become more front and center as we head into that meeting? You mentioned the Libyan situation. Libya has seen 1 million barrels of production offline for almost a month. We had a situation this week where the main port in Tripoli was shelled, and the ceasefire talks have broken down. So that supply outage looks like it's going to be protracted, which makes it challenging for OPEC decision makers in terms of what do you do in terms of the market.
All right, so you mentioned the Libya situation. The likelihood of a lasting ceasefire seems to be getting smaller and smaller by the day. There's also a very, very big deal happening very soon in Iran as well. Parliamentary elections there. Take us through exactly how that's going to play out. Is this something, it seems like not so long ago we were talking about General Qasem Soleimani's assassination, and now Iran's back in the headlines in a good or a bad way for the oil markets.
I mean, I think this parliamentary elections has been largely flying under the radar for the oil market, but it could have really important implications for U.S.-Iran relations. Reformists have won the last 3 elections in Iran, the 2013 presidential election, the 2017 presidential election, the parliamentary elections in 2016. This looks like that trend is going to end. Reformist candidates have basically been disqualified from competing in this polls, setting it up for a hardline victory. And so that potentially leads to a situation where Iranian policy becomes more hawkish towards the United States, potentially more confrontational, and less of a chance of a diplomatic off-ramp. Now, tensions have ceased since the killing of Soleimani and when the Iranians responded by firing on the bases in Iraq, but the tension remains really under the radar and it continues to boil. And as long as Iran remains subject to crippling economic sanctions, the risk of confrontation remains very high.
All right, Brent crude is right now, we're showing viewers below $60. It's $59.08. WTI U.S.-based crude is $53.47. We are talking about very depressed levels ever since we've seen some of those Iranian tensions escalate earlier this year. Does this then mean the path of least resistance for oil prices is to the downside? And does OPEC and its partner countries, do they have their work cut out for them to try to manage that supply?
I mean, it was almost looking like the beginning of the year was set up for oil prices to be higher because of the off-ramp of trade war disputes, because of increased tensions in the Middle East. But the virus story really overwhelmed concerns about supply disruption. And so it would be really important for OPEC to really try to seize control of the narrative. Now, again, if going into that meeting there is a sense that the virus impact is waning, that may take pressure off OPEC to cut more barrels, especially if we have the Libyan outage persisting, and watch the story in Venezuela as well. Rosneft Trading Company was subject to U.S. sanctions this week. Rosneft has provided a key financial lifeline for the Maduro government there, lending them $6.5 billion since 2014. If we see these sanctions materially impact further Venezuelan oil exports, that could be another factor that OPEC has to weigh in making this decision. You know, you have some people in the OPEC Secretariat saying, look, we think the virus impact is going to wane in the end of the second quarter. They actually are basically saying maybe we don't need to be as, constructive in additional action. Then on the other side of it, though, you do have governments like Saudi Arabia that have said, again, they're really committed to getting ahead of this issue. So a lot is going to be on OPEC's plate. It's going to be a very, very, I think, challenging meeting for them. But again, they're going to be weighing all of these factors and making this critical decision.